And we're live. All right, I'll go ahead and call to order the regular meeting of the City Council for October 7th, 2024. Councilmember Gardner will be leading us in invocation and pledge.
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, thank you so much, Lord, for this day, and we are so thankful for the beautiful weather and the changing of the seasons and the beauty of nature that we get to enjoy here in Maumelle. We're just so thankful for that, God, and we appreciate you giving us this beautiful place to live, Lord. Father, we ask for wisdom tonight as we discuss many things that are important to the city and the residents here, and we just ask that we can always look to the future and what's going to be best for this city and for the residents, Father, and that we can just be good stewards of what you have given us here in the city to take care of, Lord, and that we can make this as good a place as possible for the future and for future residents, Lord. God, thank you so much for all those that serve this city each and every day, and we're thankful for those that take care of us, take care of our security and police and fire, and Lord, we're just so thankful for all those that work around the clock to keep us living in this great place, Lord. We ask that you will put somebody in our path, God, that we could serve, and that we will act upon that and help out our fellow man anytime that we can, God. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Gardner. Next item of business is the approval of the minutes from September 16th. You all received a copy of those in the council packet. Open the floor for discussion. Entertain a motion to adopt.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. I want to say thank you to former Mayor Pro Tem Tierney for running the meeting. I think it's something that every council member should get the chance to do at least once, as it's a fun, interesting difference between being council member, sitting here, or sitting there, and here. We all participating and engaging in the meeting in different ways, and I think it went pretty well.
Thank you.
The next order of business is public comment cards. I have one public comment card. Charlie Stutz, come on down. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Charlie Stutz. I live at 4 Barber Court. I've lived in Maumelle for 26 years. When I moved here, we had 2 stoplights. Now we have approximately 6. And they're nice, they're new, they're good. The only problem is people are running them every day, most every day. And it's quite a problem. It's a public health problem, it's a nuisance, it's a danger to everyone. We have increased traffic, particularly with the holidays right around the corner. We're going to have more people visiting. I'm seeing a lot of cars from North Carolina, evacuees from Florida. And so the boulevard is busy every day. My concern is, how can we set these timers? How can we set these stoplights to where we can have a red light where a car needs to stop until we get a green light? They're going to need to set for 8 to 10 seconds. All right. In other words, they're turning red, and then my green light showing, and I'm going. And unless I look, I'm going to see a car barreling down like last Friday at 65 miles an hour. They were going 65 about or 60 on the boulevard. I had a green light like normal, but I looked to wait on them. And that's okay, I can do that. But how about the 16-year-old driver, all right? How about the young mother who has a newborn like my daughter? And she's in a hurry and she doesn't want to wait at the green light. She's going to get sideswiped. Okay? That's what's going to happen. And I'll tell you why I know that. It happened to my aunt 6 years ago. At the intersection, and granted this is in North Little Rock and Maumelle Boulevard, at the intersection of Crystal Hill Road, All right, so we have governance over that, so does North Little Rock. But someone ran a red light, proceeded to plow into my aunt. She was in ICU for 30 days, broken pelvis, 2 legs, arm, collarbone, and eventually succumbed to her injuries. All right, 30 days later. The girl who hit her, likewise, manner died about a year later from another cause. 2 deaths, 1 accident, and from a red light being run. So there hasn't been anything material to change that since that's happened. I know we can't really film, and send a ticket to someone who's running a red light like they've been doing in Missouri for the past 30 years. If you run a red light there, you can get a ticket mailed to you in the mail that shows your license plate. And I know that state law doesn't allow us to do that here in Arkansas, but I plead and beg of you that we do something to talk about the people who put in the lights, to where we can adjust these timers, to give the green light people a better chance, in other words, to know that the oncoming traffic is going to stop. They're going to need to see that red light for a little bit longer rather than seeing a yellow that they can speed up to and proceed through the red. So that's all I have tonight. I know it's a big ask, but it's a very important issue we need to be cognizant of, and do everything we can as a group to address this important issue.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Next up is department reports. You all heard from Deb Roush, my chief of staff, last time, who was going to talk about some of the communication efforts, but we have decided to bring up Sydney Thompson since it's her birthday. And being that she's the communication coordinator, she'll go ahead and take this from here. Sydney, the floor is yours.
Hello. Thank you. Sydney Thompson, 550 Edgewood Drive. So recently we've been working on doing a push of more traditional media that includes like TV, radio, newspaper, and those different things. Just whether it's for city events, sponsored events, things that we are doing and trying to encourage our residents to come out, and residents on the outskirts of Maumelle. So far we have had about 18 news stories from KATV, THV 11, Fox, and KARK. Most recently at the Career Connect event, which was last Wednesday, we had THV 11's Journey Taylor come out, and she did like a student, gave the students an experience to kind of be a mock reporter, I would say, just if that was a career that they would like to look into as they get older and go to college. We also had the mayor, he sat down with KATV last week to speak on See-Click Fix. And so far I have put together a video montage just of the different news stories that we have done so far. And well, you guys can take a look at that.
Oh. I'm not in any of these, am I?
You're in the last one.
Hang on just a second.
Got it. You guys ready? Let's do it. Start over. Start.
Yeah, Chris, it's an app called See-Click Fix, a simple-to-use tool that the city's had for a few years now. They say it's helped keep issues in the forefront of their priorities and a line of transparency between the residents and the city. Potholes, speeding, light outages. All of these non-emergency issues can be reported straight to the City of Maumelle using the SeeClick Fix app.
They can do it anonymously, they can have their name there, they don't even have to create a guest account. From there, that comes to us, gets routed to the proper department, and provides a tracking mechanism where we can ensure that those requests are being responded to and sort of managed ultimately.
Maumelle Mayor Caleb Norris says it sends in those complaints straight to the right people in the city, allowing them to organize them based on priority and able to set a due date.
A dead tree will originally go to Public Works Department, who will then go out and assess whether that tree needs to come down. Maybe it's a tree that's already fallen. And that due date is what then sends reminders up to the supervisor all the way up to my office if we aren't responding in a timely enough manner.
The way to use it: choose what the request is about, enter the location, and provide a photo and description of the problem. From there, it will be sent straight to the city. Mayor Norris says this is a simple way for all citizens to know where to report and keeps the issues from falling through the cracks.
But it doesn't magically solve or fix whatever those issues are. So we still have to find the time, the resources, and get out there. But it does prevent requests from disappearing. They don't just disappear.
Currently, 2 other cities in the state use this app, Pine Bluff and Fayetteville. He says for a smaller city, it works well to give residents a better quality of life.
A smaller city or your mid-sized cities in Arkansas are just going to get swamped with the features. So it's very basic. It can be expanded. I think the value is great. It's a great value. And so I'd recommend it to other cities.
Well, in the app, Norris says city officials are also able to communicate with each other on each complaint to determine when they can be fixed and how long the issue might take to remedy. On your side, I'm Ashley Lunningham.
Okay.
So that was just a quick little montage of just the different things that we've done. Like you guys saw, the pickleball courts, all-inclusive playground, just a little bit of that. And so that's all I have. Don't forget to follow us on City of Maumelle Government on Facebook and City of Maumelle on Instagram. And just if you guys can continue to share and repost those things just to get more traction for residents and information out that way. So thank you.
Thank you, Sydney. It is always easy to get the press out when there's bad news. They come very quick. It's much more difficult to get them out, to just kind of highlight some of the stuff that's going on in the city. And they've been out doing things like helping us spread information on SeeClick Fix or other avenues a lot more recently. And that is thanks to Sydney and sort of trying to capitalize on some media that we haven't really been targeting that well. So thank you to you, Sydney, and happy birthday. I'm assuming she's avoiding questions by running away really quickly, but if there are any, I'll her. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to the Planning Commission report, which is Councilmember Gardner.
Oh, it is. It was a good meeting. I did not come prepared with notes.
Can you get the mic toward you?
I said it was a good meeting, but I did not come prepared with notes. I do apologize for that. You will see most of the items on our agenda, so I'll run through those real quick. We have a conditional use permit that is for a Entergy substation that was passed along to us from planning. Also amending a zoning map for some property along White Oak Crossing where there is interest in commercial activity going in, so that was referred to us as well. Then also amending land use for a church on Audubon Drive that was given a due pass to us. And then lastly, amending the master street plan to basically make new connections, or not new connections, but just to align it with the county and roads that are in the area. So all of those came to us. They're all on new business.
Thank you, sir. The next order of business is the procedural motion. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to have all ordinances and resolutions read by title only.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. We'll move on to unfinished business. The first item of unfinished business is the second reading of ordinance 1132, amending solid waste collection fees. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1132, an ordinance to amend the Maumelle City Code to increase the solid waste collection fee and for other purposes.
All right, thank you. I had a chance to watch the video of the council meeting last time around, and I just wanted to share some of my thoughts on this. The original purpose of the solid waste rate study was to determine whether we needed a rate increase, whether or not that person was able to see some efficiencies. They didn't come in and do a full internal analysis of every element of the sanitation department, but they did do some comparisons to other departments and just to make sure we were in line and they didn't see anything out of line. And then to let us know if a rate increase was required, what that rate should be. There's been a lot of discussion. First of all, I was reminded of one of the questions when I was watching the video. Councilmember Mosley has asked multiple times, how long do we have until we're out of money? And that's a difficult question to answer, but I do have a few numbers that may help you sort of figure that out. Currently, as of the last financial report y'all were given by Beatrice, the fund balance from the end of August was $1,045,000. That sounds like a lot, but we have open POs of $683,000. Those are things, it's largely 2 sanitation trucks that we have ordered from that money. Since then, we've paid half of those, I believe, invoiced out the half payment, and the others due. But for terms of comparison, that $1 million is short, just shy of $700,000 that we can't spend because we've already ordered the trucks. That gives us an unencumbered balance of $362,000 in the sanitation reserve fund. Now, if we look at the annual deficits, just going quickly, in year 2020, we had a $100,000 surplus. 2021, we had a $244,000 deficit. In 2022, we had a $158,000 deficit. 2023, we had a $551,000 deficit. Year to date, so far in 2024, we have a $172,000 deficit. So then when you look at that unencumbered balance, that gives us, well, if it's like 2020 and we're adding money each year, an infinite amount of time. But for the other years, it looks like in 2 of those years would wipe us out completely. One, we'd have 2 years left and remaining. It's also a little bit tricky because the fund balance is still going to show high until we get those sanitation trucks in. For example, if it takes 3 years to get those trucks in, we can actually dip into that money but come back out. So it's hard to say like exactly when the zero is, but this gives us a rough timeline of the time frame that we are looking at. So again, 362,000 year-to-date deficits of just over 172,000. But I wanted to, and maybe I'll pause here on this issue, and then I had some other stuff I wanted to say. But Councilmember Mosley.
Yeah, thanks for those numbers. I did a little bit more reading, read the minutes again, and it sounds like our normal expenses go along, and then we have trash trucks. It sounds like the trash trucks are what really eat into our stuff. And since we aren't having any more trash trucks on order for the next 2 or 3 years or whatever, I guess we could rock along it. We probably are getting enough in just to at least cover our expenses and maybe a little bit more. But yeah, I still think we need to raise.
That is, and also to point out, that's if we remain bare bones staffed. In other words, not fully staffed.
Right.
There's that. So, excuse me.
Okay, thank you.
And just as a reminder, we have 2 trucks on order that were ordered this year. Those are taking anywhere from 2 to 3 years to arrive from order. I wanted to point, so I was listening to the discussion. Currently, the version of the ordinance that's in the packet that's on second reading is increase of $7.63 above the 1550. That's almost a 50% rate increase. It's just above 49%. So it's almost a 50% rate increase. Looking at it, that'll bring our budgeted fee revenue from this year. It was budgeted at 1.25 million. It'll bring it to 1.87 million. The budgeted number, that's an increase of $620,000 just in that thing. One thing I also wanted to point out that hasn't really been highlighted, that rate increase includes a line item expenditure of about 20% of the budget, which is budgeted at, or 20% of the budget there. That's expected to be about $332,000 or approximately $3.9 per customer. This is all stuff that's in that report. And that was based on the actuals, which I know has been a sticking point, is that actuals were used, but that personnel costs are continuing to come in lower than we're budgeting because we continue to remain so understaffed. If we were to get those positions full, if we give raises and are able to make some changes and fill those positions up, what then is the number? And that's my understanding is what's really been sticking on folks. So I went in and looked at a few different things. I looked at the difference between the budgeted and actuals in personnel, which is the number that we're thinking really is the sticking point, because operational costs, we don't always spend every dollar in operational. They don't spend money just because they have it. They only spend it when they need it. So really the shortage that we hope to remedy is in the personnel. In 2023, we budgeted for personnel. This is salaries, benefits, overtime, the whole package. We budgeted just over $1 million, and we spent $670,000. Well, why don't I do this? In 2023, we spent $370,000 less in personnel than we budgeted. In 2022, we spent $244,000 less than we budgeted. In 2021, we spent $238,000 less than what we budgeted. And in 2020, we spent $170,000 less in personnel than we budgeted. I should point out also, a few of you old timers or folks that have been around for a while may remember a few years back, we actually added some additional thrower positions that were not really expected to be filled. The problem we were running into back in the day is if we, and I don't remember the exact numbers, let's say there's 5 throwers, that we'd fill those 5 positions, we'd wait for someone to quit or resign, then we'd start the requisition, then we'd advertise the opening, then we'd get applications in, then we'd interview, and then start that person. The thrower position has always had a high turnover. It's higher now, I think, than in the past. So we added additional thrower positions in so that we could remain in that hiring process without having to like stop it and restart it a lot. So I believe it was 2 positions that we're not really expecting to ever be staffed. It's just the mechanism that allows us to continue to hire in a high turnover position. So actual should, just with those positions alone, be anywhere from $70,000 to $90,000 less than budgeted every year that we can just count on. And so the point of all this is we've been talking about a lot of numbers. Even when we're fully staffed, the newly proposed reserve, which I mentioned is $332,000 a year, covers all of those deficits that we were expecting or that we saw. I'm saying maybe surpluses is the right word. The difference between the actual and budgeted in personnel. That reserve covers that, and it's all covered when you look at the fact that we're expecting a budgeted revenue increase of approximately $620,000, right? So we've been looking at personnel coming anywhere from $170,000 less to $370,000 more. We certainly don't want to plan on using the budgeted reserve in the long term for personnel. I probably should have led with this. A 50% rate increase is a big rate increase. We would all agree we'd much rather see smaller increases more regularly than waiting almost 18 years right now between setting the raise. We also all kind of thought, or the consensus seemed to be that tying it to CPI, or this idea of regular adjustments, would be a good idea. The city attorney saved us from peril by telling us that, advising us that we can't do that or shouldn't do that. But the point being, I think we've all recognized that some sort of regular review is necessary to make sure we're just not out of whack here. All of that is to say, I think a 50% rate increase covers us plenty. I don't think we need to sort of get to the exact dollar amount that we're needing. This covers us. I'm not in favor of a bigger rate increase than that. I think at the very least, this gets us through a year or two while we can work on trying to get the positions filled, do those things, see what the fine tuning is, and then come back at a regular interval and make those adjustments as is. So just my thoughts on everything. I'm not really in favor of increasing it more at this time. I think we have enough to survive a year or two, certainly through the year, just with this increase, and then we can dial in. Especially, I'm not expecting to be 100% staffed, even with bigger pay increases in January. I just don't think that's going to happen. So just my thoughts. Councilmember Gardner?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to echo your comments. I've been thinking about this the last 3 weeks, especially because I know we've all spent a lot of time personally wondering what the true expense number is, and I don't think we're ever going to get to. We're not going to get to that. It's because we're going to have those constant issues with turnover and staffing. So this is obviously going to increase revenue and make the department, I think, fund itself, and it cures that problem. So I'm not so interested now as to trying to drill down to that exact number versus go with what we think is going to be an adequate amount to cover it. So I've been thinking a lot about, what should we increase it more to try to cover those unnecessary or unseen expenses, but a $7.63 increase is certainly going to add more revenue to the coffers to be able to pay for all those things that we need. So.
Councilmember Shin?
Well, where I was in favor of a higher number, I've reconsidered that after reading what CAW is about to do.
Yeah.
So, that just we don't need to slap them twice.
Real quick diversion about CAW. I believe Tad Bohannon's coming. I don't remember if it's at the next council meeting. He's asked to come talk to folks here soon. So just be on the lookout for that. Well, this is on second reading, I believe. And so if there's no further discussion, this will be on third reading at the next council meeting. All right, moving along to the second reading of Ordinance 1133 regarding a franchise agreement. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1133, an ordinance to authorize Unifiber LLC and its successors to assign, to construct, maintain, and operate a communications network within the City of Maumelle, Arkansas, including a license to use the city's right-of-way, etc., in non-residential zones only, to levy a franchise tax, to approve a license agreement, and for other purposes.
All right, this is on, I'll open the floor for discussion. If there is none, all right, we'll move on to the second reading of Ordinance 1134, authorizing electronic funds transfer. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1134, an ordinance to authorize the payment of certain municipal bills via electronic funds transfer and for other purposes.
I'll open the floor for discussion. Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, as I said in the last meeting, I am not in favor of approving this until we see the comprehensive written policies and procedures for this type of thing here. It's apparently considered pretty serious by the by the state. And anyway, there's a lot of guidelines on that, and I think the notes in the minutes said that I think the finance director was going to work up what she's got, and we'll see where we are. But anyway, I want to see those finished before we go ahead with this. I want to make sure we're taking controls and accounting and all that seriously. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. City Attorney?
Yes, Ms. Sousa did draft some proposed policies. I think she did that when Mayor Norris was out of office, so I wanted to make sure that he had a chance to review them before we distribute it to the council. So we should certainly have them by the next meeting, if not before.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. If there's nothing further, this will be on third reading at the next council meeting. Moving on, second reading of ordinance 1135, amending the Code of Ethics. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1135, an ordinance to amend the city code to adopt a code of ethics for all city boards and commissions and for other purposes.
I'll open the floor for discussion. If there is none, Councilmember Mosley?
Okay, I think I answered my own question on this, but I think the city attorney said last time that we can already remove a board member with a 2/3 majority vote of the council. Is that, do you remember that being the case? And that would be the case once this is
Yes,
approved?
so this doesn't add any new removal procedure. It just refers to the procedure that's already in the code,
Okay,
which is at 2-563, and I believe it is 2/3 majority.
yeah, okay. All right, I'll continue to think about this one. Thank you.
If there's nothing further, all right, moving on to new business. The first item of new business is Resolution 2024-37, approving a conditional use permit. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, a resolution to be entitled Resolution Number 2024-37, a resolution to approve a conditional use permit for a utility substation Lot A, Maumelle East Industrial Park, which is 204 Paws Lane, and for other purposes.
All right, thank you. Mr. City Attorney?
Yes, I spoke with Mr. Grummer about this last week, and of course it was discussed at Planning Commission Subcommittee and at the regular meeting. There was a pretty extensive discussion about Four Paws Lane, which is a private drive. You may recall that since 2018 or 2015, there are no private drives allowed in industrial districts. This road was previously approved according to a plat that was approved, I think, in 2007. One of these contingencies that the Planning Commission put on, the third one, says the condition of Four Paws Lane must be inspected and approved by the Fire Department and Public Works for proper access, and a variance will be needed if not upgraded to city spec. Mr. Grummer, Mr. Lyon, and I sat down. We called the engineer who originally did it way back in 2006. It was built to city spec for industrial district at that time. So that part, the variance won't be sought because we've determined that it's already at city spec. However, the developer will be required to repair it after they've completed construction, and of course, it'll still need to be maintained and signed off by Fire and Public Works.
Thank you, sir. I'll open the floor for discussion. Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, thanks for that explanation. That was one of my questions. I attended the subcommittee meeting and the actual meeting, formal meeting, and that seemed to be the biggest discussion item was the road and the access, and and all that, and I do have just a little bit of a question here as to what we're looking at. I didn't quite pick up on it. There's the road comes off of that cul-de-sac, if I understand it correctly, and then traverses along to along the southern part of that, and then would connect into this proposed substation. And the property that's there's you know, the whole lot would be square if it weren't for this one portion right there at the cul-de-sac. There's nothing on that land at this time, is there? Is that a vacant lot?
It's unimproved.
It's unimproved?
Yes.
Okay, so there's no building there. I'd kind of thought maybe there was a building there that road was serving.
So the L-shaped is unimproved at this time. That's where they're gonna put the substation.
Okay.
This little thing that's marked as Claudia's Canine Cuisine, there is a building on that lot.
Oh, there is?
That has been there since about 2007-ish.
Okay, so Four Paws Lane does serve that one building then, I guess.
Now it will serve both of them, although the nature of being a utility substation, it's expected to get very little traffic.
All right. Yeah, that was, I did read through all the stuff, and I'd understood that there was already a little substation, that this was an upgrade, but apparently this is
I don't believe so.
this is a brand new one, I guess.
I think it is brand new.
So, all right, I'll yield to somebody else's question.
Councilmember Shin?
Isn't there new construction on the other side of the cul-de-sac? An expansion from NCS or something?
Yes.
Okay. I thought there was something on that lot now.
On NCS's lot?
No, on the upper right. The right-hand parcel there on the cul-de-sac. Isn't there new construction up there? Or am I mistaken about which lot had the new construction on it? It's been a few weeks since I went out there.
I don't believe there's anything in that northeast of the cul-de-sac. The Four Paws Lane is the lane on the south side that goes east to west.
Okay.
Councilmember Mosley?
If I remember right from one of those meetings there, the reason this can't be accessed from, it looks like a street over there to the left, is because there's a railroad track there, is that correct?
Yeah, that is not a street. That is the railroad spur.
Oh, that's a railroad, okay, there's no street over there, okay. And then Plastic Ingenuity is up on the top side. Now, is that entire L gonna be used for the substation, or is there gonna be some land left over that's close?
Do we have a representative of the applicant? No?
All right. That's not a big question, so I mean, it's not a big deal.
It looks like, so if you look at what I guess is labeled a preliminary grading and drainage plan, there's only gonna be a little bit that's gonna remain unimproved, because they're gonna put a stormwater pond.
Okay, that's right, there is a.
And also there would be, they'd have an access issue if, they'd have to get it replatted, but there would also be an access issue, because there's no road that would go to that last corner.
All right.
It's very hilly, too. Councilmember, I lost it. I hit one too many buttons. Who was it? Councilmember Gardner.
Motion to approve resolution 2024-37.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? Councilmember Mosley?
I'll just say, I'm not against this at all. It doesn't look like, it looks like they've covered the road and all that, so I'll vote yes on this, thanks.
If there's nothing further, all those in favor of adopting resolution 2024-37, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. That brings us to the first reading of ordinance 1136 to amend the zoning map. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Being enacted by the
Sorry, hang on.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1136, an ordinance to amend the city's zoning map for 35.7 acres, more or less, along White Oak Crossing and for other purposes.
I'll open the floor for discussion. Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, this looks like a win-win-win deal here. I know that the Planning Commission was really excited about this and the prospects for a facility going in there, and it's a rezoning going to commercial. That's exactly the kind of thing I like to see, so I'm definitely in favor of this, and I'll be voting for it whenever we vote.
Thank you, sir. All right, we'll move on to the next item, the first reading of ordinance 1137, amending the land use plan map, track 3. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1137, an ordinance to amend the city's land use plan map for Track 3, split of Good Samaritan Track, which is 103 Audubon Drive, and for other purposes.
All right, I'll go ahead and open the floor for discussion. Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, I think the only thing we saw that the residents neighboring by were worried about was some drainage. But I think that's going to be taken care of or addressed during the development plan. Was that what I saw? That would be my concern, is just anything that the residents were concerned about around there, because I think that's a great place for a church. So I'll be supporting this.
Thank you, sir. Any additional, Mr. City Attorney?
Yeah, so this land is zoned, we're just changing, or the proposal is just to change the land use category. It's zoned PCD. One of the allowed uses in a PCD is for institutional like this. Also, because it's PCD, there will be a preliminary development plan that will be before you in due course.
Thank you, sir. If there's nothing further, this will be on second reading at the next council meeting. All right, moving on. The next item is the first reading of ordinance 1138, amending the master street plan. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1138, an ordinance to amend the city's master street plan and for other purposes.
All right, I'll open the floor for discussion here. Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, I'll be, probably when Mr. Grummer's here, I'll be asking him a little bit more about the details of this. There's a lot of changes and so on. I just wanted to also, every time we do this, I don't know, once a year, every 2 years or something like that. And I always ask to make sure I get the same answer, or something that I remember being the same answer, is what are we doing when we change these streets and put in propose this and propose that? Are we committing ourselves to those changes in some manner, or are we just playing with this as we move forward and grow and try to be aware of what's going on?
Thank you. If your question is whether or not we are required to build the road because of the classification, the answer is no. The general idea is to make sure that we're not building, for example, a bunch of cul-de-sacs that just cut off a certain area. It also does require, when the developers come in, they have to make accommodations. If we have a collector or an arterial, they have to make certain accommodations. They have to build their road or their half road, depending on how they abut that property, to those standards. Certain connections, like arterials, don't allow direct access from, say, residential neighborhoods. So that there are impacts to it. It's not just lines on a paper. It has impact, but no, it does not commit the city to building any of the roads.
Thank you. I've got another question. I know we've got some proposed stuff that goes out into the county and then also into North Little Rock, and I'm assuming those are changes that the county and North Little Rock are thinking about because we don't have any control over those areas. Is that correct?
Well, we do in our extraterritorial jurisdiction. So we periodically see, and we've been seeing recently, developments occur just outside the city, but in our extraterritorial jurisdiction, where we do enforce some of the city code, not full zoning, but there are some enforcements. I think the stuff in the North Little Rock section is just so that we're showing that our arterials and collectors are actually matching up, but we don't legislate anything in the city of North Little Rock.
One of the things I asked Mr. Grummer about, there's a lot of new little roads there in the coming off of Maumelle Boulevard, it looks like, or at least a road coming off of Maumelle Boulevard that goes to the northeast toward the interstate. And I think if I understood him correctly, he said that North Little Rock is planning to move the stoplight there at the gasoline station and move it over to this new location. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Which sounds reasonable because
it's on the south end of the boulevard, and I believe you're talking about Vestal.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now Vestal, is that still on the map? Is that still planned to go all the way to White Oak, or is that not now?
That is the idea, and I think it comes out and intersects with White Oak Crossing roundabout the Mayberry property, which is the property we were looking at for ordinance 1136.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all the detail I asked about. I had a rough time here looking at the map with all the little orange hash marks, and I guess that was designating county and North Little Rock, separating it from us. I thought for a minute it was roads, but we're looking at the green and the purple, I guess, primarily as new roads and new proposals. But I'll continue to study this and ask more details in the next two meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That is a little bit confusing. As I was sitting here looking at it, the border of the city limits looked like a road. I was like, oh, that's a weird one. But, all right, if there's nothing further, this will be on second reading at the next city council meeting. All right, that concludes unfinished business. Mayor's comments. I just want to point out that the Maumelle Fire Department is hosting their fire safety fair this Thursday, October 10th. If you didn't get a chance to go last time, I encourage you, if you can swing by, take a look at it. It'll be at Station 2, so over by the Center on the Lake, and it turned into a pretty big event. So if you have kids, definitely bring them, or if you're curious as to what's going on, bring them, come on down. And y'all maybe check your email in the next, if you haven't already, next day or so, for an email from the fire chief. To just be on the lookout for that. I can tell by some laughter that maybe some people have got it. So there is a dunk booth, and I volunteered to do it, and they may be seeking more volunteers too. So I don't know. That's all I have for mayor's comments. Council member comments. Council member Tierney.
Yes, one of the things we always get on the council, if anybody's got a complaint, it's going to start with us. And, there have always been a lot of complaints about the construction going on with the lines going underground, nicking water mains and this and that. And, I had one lady write me, and she's very upset, didn't think the city was doing anything to monitor it. And I want to thank Mr. Grummer's department He gave me a very detailed response. He's obviously way ahead of the game on it. And I shared that information with her. And so here we had somebody who's very disgruntled and then turned around and was complimenting the city, thanking us for our efforts. So I wanted to let Mr. Grammer know that his efforts are being appreciated and are noticed. And this is somebody who started out with a complaint and ended up with a compliment. So she was very pleased that the city's being aware of it. And I was also very happy to hear that we have actually banned 4 different crews from working in Maumelle because of sloppy work. So they're doing a great job of looking out for residents, and I wanted to share that with him.
Thank you. Scott and his team have done, it isn't always recognized, so thank you. They've done an amazing job of managing the utility and all the boring. That doesn't mean there's not problems. We all know there's still plenty of problems, but we really have one of the best management systems in the state. Scott is being recognized across the state. He's being asked to come talk on what the efforts that he's put together in Maumelle's management of this system. And I think of where we were a few years ago when someone would just come in, fill out an application, pay a $25 permit fee, and then was able to start boring. And then we had one person in the city who'd go kind of check and make sure everything wasn't messed up, to the entire system we have now. Scott will probably be coming to you in the budget season asking for additional help to manage that, because the amount of time and effort that's going into that is a lot. So you'll probably hear more, and I'll pass on to him that you're thankful. Councilmember Mosley.
Yeah, I had 3 things I wanted to mention here. I'll go with the shorter ones first. I thought the gentleman's comments there about the red light were timely, because I do notice that a lot. I always wait a little while before I turn out there after a light turns green. I also wanted to, you had mentioned one time if you saw something that needed adjusting, to holler at you. We've got flashing yellow left turn lights at Country Club Parkway intersection, and I was wondering if we couldn't do those at where the Wendy's is and then where the old fire station is, because a lot of times you'll be driving down that road there in the evening and there's nobody around, but you get a green light and you've missed the left turn, and you have to sit there for the whole thing. And if it was yellow, you could just go ahead and make that left turn. Is there a way to do that? And just I think that it would work probably even during the day. I don't think there'd be a problem with having it during the day, because. Pardon?
Add Odom north to that, because after 8 p.m., you can sit there until the car comes.
Yeah, that's.
When you meet a car, then the light will cycle and let you turn.
Yeah, I'll add that to that.
The requested areas are, hang on, Odom North. What streets did you mention, Councilmember Mosley?
The Maumelle Boulevard and, oh gosh, it's, is it Audubon? I don't know. It's the one there where Wendy's is.
Millwood.
And then Millwood. Is that Carnahan? Okay.
Okay. I'm sending this to Mike, and we'll look into it. I think, I'll look into that. We may have to do a traffic signal warrant and submit it to RDOT. Maybe not, we'll see.
Okay. You ready for another one?
Sure.
Okay. Park on the River rental, I think that kicked off, I think, October 1st when we started renting it out as a city. Is that correct?
I don't remember the exact date. It is being, it is city run right now.
And I talked to Philip Rayburn, and he said he seemed encouraged by the interest in it. He said they had several rentals for the the high-end rentals, $1,000 or $800 or whatever it is for a whole day. And he said they had several of those lined up between now and the end of the year, I think. And so he seemed to think that was going to work out all right. I've been concerned that we priced it so high that it would preclude people wanting to rent it by the hour for say 3 hours or something like that. And, so I was afraid we priced it too high and not have enough interest here, but, anyway, I thought I'd just pass that along, that he at least seemed encouraged by that. The last thing I want to talk about was last week, or last meeting, I brought up the language there in our public comment section, and the mayor wasn't here, so he didn't have a chance to weigh in, and the city attorney was going to check between then and now to see if we can change that wording. And again, this is that wording that says, "This privilege may be revoked by the mayor in the case of inappropriate language or comments." And I asked the city attorney to check to see if we needed an ordinance or resolution, or we could just vote on that. And I saw him the other day, and he said that it looked like we could just vote on it. He couldn't find where it was ever done by resolution or by ordinance. So anyway, I am tempted to go ahead and make that motion tonight, but the city attorney also mentioned that the mayor may want to weigh on this, because he also came up with another court case that said you can restrict subject matter. And maybe you'd do a very better job talking about it.
Sure. I found another court case having to do with public, it happened to just come across my, I don't know how I came across it actually, but it just happened to be another recent court case involving public comments at a city council meeting in Florida, I think. And the Florida City Council had a restriction that comments had to be pertinent to the city. And that wasn't really relevant to the case at issue. And the appellate court didn't rule on whether that was, I don't think there's any issue if you wanted to restrict it to comments pertinent to the city. Because after all, that's the whole point of the city council meeting. That's kind of why we're all here, is it has to be relevant to the city. But you're not required to make that restriction. So I just wanted to, that's the reason I mentioned it to you. It's just came across my desk as something another city council had done.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I tried to read that court case. Those things are always a struggle. But anyway, Mayor, do you have any problem with just removing that sentence, or do you want to try to go with that one court case?
I like the idea of, I read the court cases and had flashbacks to time when I was more actively lawyering. I think we should have something I kind of understand what you're doing, and clarify me, as just, because I've never shut anyone down on viewpoint or because of what they were saying, and I don't remember a time where Mayor Watson ever did. So I haven't encountered this in 12 years being a problem, but that doesn't mean it won't be in the future. And so if we were looking hypothetically at what sort of scenarios there were, I don't think I think we should say something that indicates that this is a limited public forum, not just an open public forum. We assume that people are coming to talk about stuff coming before the city, but if we don't limit it in somehow, there's nothing that says that people can't come up and just talk about anything at all, not even dealing with the city or Maumelle or government at all. They could just come in and read books about whatever for the giggles, and that stuff does happen. You can find that on YouTube. So being able to limit it to stuff pertaining to the city is pretty broad and vague. And then the reality is, if I don't think the mayor's power is drawn from or necessarily limited by the provisions in the agenda anyways. I like the idea of saying we're not shutting people down for viewpoints or different things like that, but I can envision plenty of scenarios where somebody could come in and read obscenity. They could read their favorite article out of whatever X-rated book they want to read, and without some ability to just say, no, that is not appropriate for here. There's nothing that, the example I was brainstorming with Andrew earlier, I could envision somebody coming in and just starting to say juveniles' names and addresses, and maybe how they like how they're dressed. I mean, you can think of just wild, crazy things. And so if we're kind of just hypothesizing how can this be better, I would also include something that limits it to stuff that we're dealing with, which is city matters. And I think what the city attorney can explain, I think they just had something simple that said, we're opening the microphone for you to talk to the city council about things pertaining to the city. That's actually loose enough that you can probably do any of those things that I just mentioned and find a way to tie it into the city, but it does knock out some stuff. And also, I think there's some legal differences between an open public forum and a limited public forum in terms of review, standards of review when evaluating governmental action. So.
Yeah, at first I said, that sounds like a viewpoint discrimination to limit the subject. But after reading the court case, I get the point.
So it's actually more a subject matter.
Yeah, it's subject.
A viewpoint would be like, so if we could say you can't come in and talk about football, any NFL football teams, and that's a subject matter restriction. Conversely, we could come in and say, hey, you can talk about football, you cannot say anything good about X team, Y team. You can't say anything bad about the Kansas City Chiefs. That would be a viewpoint. So the subject matter is open, but we're not allowing different viewpoints on that subject to be discussed.
Well,
So I think some subject matter regulation to stuff generally pertaining to the city makes sense.
My only concern would be, like, occasionally we have somebody come in that's running for state rep or something like that, and they're here to introduce themselves, and that would be a violation of our subject. So he'd maybe have to come in under special guests and announcements or something.
I think somebody, if we were saying it's limited to the city, I think somebody could come in and say, hi, I'm this, I'm introducing myself, I want to be of service to the city, and ding, you've checked a box that says, now you're talking about things pertaining to the city.
Okay.
But I mean, there's still a lot of flexibility here, and the reality is, the way I see it is that the mayor runs the meeting, but I think in a lot of ways the council as a whole can trump that, right, and vote on things, and we've done that with regards to extending time or allowing more people to talk and whatnot. So I don't think you're going to end up with a concrete rule that works well in every scenario. So.
Well, would you want to work on some language that works for that, if you want that? I mean, if you really don't want it, I'd just take that sentence out and we'll wing it from there and worry about it if we start having people reading out of Playboy or something like that later on. We could wait till the next meeting, come up with some language, and we can make the motion then.
I'm not opposed to removing, again, I don't think the mayor's authority is granted or limited by this provision, but I see it more as notice to the public. So I don't mind if that gets removed. I think we should also, I do strongly believe we should say we're opening the floor for comments about things pertaining to the business of the council or to the city. Or what was the language in that case that you saw?
It said something about pertaining to the city. Y'all are welcome to work on it, and then we'll do it next meeting if you'd like.
That works. Okay. Was that all three items, Mr. Mosley?
That's all three items. I'm done. Thank you.
Councilmember Shin?
Two, very short. I'm going to date myself. Back when I learned to drive nearly 50 years ago, traffic lights turned red on both sides before the other one turned green. So it was a four-way red for about 3 to 5 seconds, and then it turned green for whichever direction was to go. And you didn't push through back then. Don't know if it make any difference now, but just a little bit of history. But 2 weeks ago, Robinson High School brought their life skills class to our all-inclusive playground. And a little bit of the concern is it was older kids. They were 9th grader through 12th graders. And it was amazing. We took a young lady out of a wheelchair and put her in the swing, and I don't know that I've ever heard her laugh that way in 2.5 years' time in that classroom. We took a young lady who does not engage. She's severely autistic. And she got on the roller slide. And she sat on the end of that slide after she came down and just sat and laughed and grinned and did not want to move. We were there for 45 minutes. And as we were leaving, a dozen cars pulled up, and I don't know if it was a mom's group or homeschoolers. And the place just was swarming with kids on a Friday morning. So it made me really proud to see the city, all the work that was put in, all the years that were put in, and to see how it's being used. I just wanted to let everybody know it's very much appreciated.
That roller slide is a fan favorite.
For your grandkids or you?
Well, you have to try it out. See what all the
Make sure it's
people
safe
think
for them.
about.
Yeah.
Speaking of parks that are very busy and full, if you think the all-inclusive playground has been busy, and it has, I encourage you to go look at how well received the new playground equipment at Lake Willistine is. That is a madhouse. It's big. I think it blends into the area with its colors. It just seems less. It's beautiful equipment. It's being very well received. So thank you to y'all for approving that in the budget. Councilmember Tierney.
Yeah, I also, while I'm giving out shout outs and compliments, I also wanted to give one out to the Maumelle City Police Department. They have a program called, Police Academy for Citizens, or Citizens Police Academy. And it's a 7-week course. I just completed it, and along with several other members of the city. I think Member Gardner's wife was in attendance, and it was a very informative and educational process that I highly recommend. If anybody's thinking about doing it, I think it would be something you'd find definitely worth your time to do. And I want to thank everybody who was participating in it for the efforts that they did to provide that to us.
Thank you. If you haven't done the Citizens Police Academy, I strongly encourage it, whether you're on the council, in the audience, or just at home watching videos. In fact, if you're at home watching this on YouTube, you absolutely should be there. Councilmember Mosley.
Oh, yeah, I hit my button there just before you talked about the playground at the Willistine, because that's what I was gonna talk about, is, my wife took our grandkids up there, Saturday afternoon. She came back and she said, "Oh, that is a great improvement." She said, "That's a great playground." And she said it's higher, but all the tubes and everything are enclosed, so there was no safety concerns or anything like that she had. And the kids obviously didn't have any concerns, but they gave it the thumbs up, so thank you.
I was gonna say, when you talk about safety concerns, I thought there was gonna be a safety issue when I heard Deb going down one of the slides, and she was screaming. I actually caught it on video a little bit in the background, but true story. Any additional council member comments? City attorney comments? City clerk comments? If there's nothing further, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adjourn the city council meeting of October the 7th, 2024.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you for your service.